Hello there, my name is Hido and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're diving further into Dungeons & Dragons Commander world, and we've got a rather devilish young man, or a demon at least. It's Orcus, Prince of Undeath, who's 4 mana and X. I always like a nice X spell, and seeing a red-black one, reminds me of the old Grenzo. It's a 5/3 with flying and trample, and when it enters the battlefield, choose one. Each other creature gets minus X until end of turn. You lose X life, so nice little board wipe. Or return up to X target creature cards with total mana value of X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. So a massive reanimation spell on the other X spectrum. Really, really cool. Does lots of things. I really like the artwork. There's some nice skulls hanging off his belt. And some kind of scythe. Everyone loves a scythe, don't they? So, quite a cool commander. And there's a lot you can do with him. Having those 2 modal abilities, it's a board wipe in the command zone and a massive reanimation spell. And there's some interesting things you can do with him. Sorry about that. Please subscribe if you like this sort of stuff. I'm going to be making one of these for every single legendary creature ever printed. And there's a lot of them, but we'll get there in the end. Without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5. In at number 5, we've got Blood Artist. So this deck, when I think of sort of mass reanimation strategies, especially ones that you can recur over and over again because it's your commander, I think of sacrificing and, draining, pinging, that sort of technique. And Blood Artist is the perfect card for that. 2 mana for a 0/1. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So this is fantastic if you use the board wipe side of our commander, because Blood Artist will see all of the other creatures die, ping everyone for loads of life, and we're going to gain loads of life, even though we're going to lose it. And it's a cheap creature that we can reanimate using our commander's other ability. It just works in every conceivable manner. To go along with this, we've got Falconwrath Noble, a more expensive version of Blood Artist, 4 mana 2/2, flying. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and gains 1 life. They've just doubled the mana cost and stuck a couple of stats on it and given it flying. It's just flapped away like a little bird. Then we've got Zula Cutthroat, 2 mana for a 1/1. When it or another creature I control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this is sort of better. It is only our creatures, but it hits all 3 of our opponents. Very, very nice. And if we're going to be sacrificing things, bringing them back, this is a wonderful card to have. Then we've got Bastion of Remembrance. So with the board wipe side of our commander, we are going to be losing these creatures if we do it. But with this being an enchantment, we're going to keep it around. 3 mana for enchantment. When it's battlefield, get a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Whenever a creature control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. You gain 1 life. Very, very nice. Then here's a couple of things that, our sacrifice outlets, or we're going to want to play because it generates a lot of tokens that we can sacrifice. Sadistic Hypnotist, 5 mana for a 2/2. Sacrifice a creature, target player discards 2 cards. Activate this ability only in time you can cast a sorcery. If you've got loads of tokens, this is phenomenal because you can just rip your opponent's hands to pieces. You're probably not going to make many friends doing this, but it's an incredibly powerful effect. Then we've got Impulsive Pilfer, 1 mana for a 1/1. So this is good because it's very cheap for our commander to return because it's only 1 CMC. We can get it back for just X being 1. Oh, absolutely phenomenal. Or we can get it back for its encore cost of 4. When it dies, create a treasure token. So a nice bit of ramp and just enables us to keep going and going and going. Very, very nice, because this is quite a mana-hungry deck. Our commander has an X in its cost, so we want to get to the upper echelons of X. Sengir Autocrat is a 4 mana 2/2, and it enters the battlefield. We create 3 0/1 black surf creature tokens. So cowabunga, dude. When it leaves the battlefield, exile all surf tokens. So with this, you want to sacrifice outlet on the field. You sacrifice all the surfs before this dies itself. And then if you bring it back, you get all your surfs again. So loads and loads of things to sacrifice for cool effects. Which brings me on to my number 4 pick. And at number 4, well, our commander, it's really, really cool, the effect that it has, but it's only whenever it's cast you can pump the mana into X. So we want to return our commander back to our hand in a lot of ways, and Skull Collector is the perfect card for that. 3 mana for an Ogre Warrior 3/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, return a black creature you control to its owner's hand. And you can pay 2 to regenerate the Skull Collector. So this works really well with that, surf creating man. You can return the dude and then play it again to put more surfs. But it works fantastically with our commander. We can rebuy it, recast it. It's just fantastic. This sort of effect, it's supposed to be a negative, but in this deck, it just works incredibly well. Then we've got Erratic Portal, 4 mana for an artifact, pay 1, tap. Return target creature to its owner's hand, unless its controller pays 1. So if our opponent taps out, you can play this, get them, return your big dude back to your hand. But the main use for this is going to be returning our own creatures, because, well, I want that creature on my hand, so I'm not going to play the 1. Really, really nice. And then look at this artwork on Dragon Mask. Horrible in every conceivable way. It's ugly. I hate it, but I love it at the same time. 3 mana for an artifact, pay 3 and tap it. Tag creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. At the end of turn, return that creature to its owner's hand. So our commander is a 5/3. So if we use this on our commander, it's a 7/3. So it can smash in there for 7 damage, and 7's the magic number in commander, isn't it? Sorry about that. And we can do this 3 times, keep returning it back to our hand, get the effect. Works exceptionally well. I like it a lot. Then an interesting card here. It's Lava Zombie. Look at that artwork. This section is all about the art. 3 mana for a 4/3. When it comes into play, return a black or red creature you control to its owner's hand. Then you can pay 2 to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. So a bit of fire breathing action. So when this comes in, return our commander back, and then we can recast our commander. Really, really awesome. And, this is the sort of card that you just wouldn't use anywhere else. So I love it in this deck. Which brings me on to my number 3 pick. And at number 3, we've got Dimir House Guard. I talked a bit about sacrifice outlets. And this card, it's a sacrifice outlet. Not all that effective because all it does is regenerate it. But just having a sacrifice outlet is phenomenal. And the main reason I love it is Transmute. So it's a 4 mana skeleton. It's 2/3 with fear. Sacrifice a creature to regenerate it, and then transmute for 3 mana. So that means discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So it's just like cycling, isn't it, really? You discard it, get whatever card you want, but it has to be 4 CMC. So I'd really build the deck around this. I've already shown you, the vampire guy that's the same as Blood Artist, 4 CMC. The guy that creates the surf tokens, 4 CMC. This searches for tons of things that work in this deck. Another sacrifice outlet, Yawgmoth Thran Physician. 4 mana for a 2/4 protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature. Put a -1/-1 counter on target creature and draw a card. Absolutely fantastic. And then you can pay 2, discard a card to proliferate. So all those counters that you've got everywhere, just bump them up. And if you're playing with some +1/+1 counter synergies, you can use that as well. Absolutely incredible. And it's 4 CMC. Speaking of all the sacrifice sort of outlets shenanigans we got going on, Smothering Abomination, 4 mana for a 4/3. It's devoid, so it's no colour. And it's got flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. So that's not just off the sacrifice that this creature does. If you have any sacrifice outlet, you keep sacrificing things, you're drawing cards, you just go through your deck, even on your tokens. Absolutely fantastic. Another cool sacrifice outlet that can draw us cards, 4 mana, 5/6, Erebos Bleak-Hearted. It's a god, it's indestructible. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, it isn't a creature. And whenever the creature you control dies, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. 2 life, that is. And that's really powerful with our commander's -X ability, because we're not going to be sacrificing the creatures, but they will die. Everything will die. So we can draw an absolute boatload of cards and keep Erebos around on the field. Then pay 2, sacrifice another creature, target creature gets -2, -1 until end of turn. So a nice bit of removal and a sacrifice outlet. Admittedly, it does cost some mana, but we can use it any way we want. Then we've got Hell's Caretaker. So a lot of our creatures are going to be going to the graveyard, and this is a fantastic sacrifice outlet that can bring them back and then sacrifice something else. Absolutely fantastic. Works exceptionally well in the deck, and it's 4 CMC. So it's a horror. Tap, sacrifice a creature, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your upkeep, so we can only use it once a turn. but amazing. Just gets you anything back for just sacrificing a little token. Then there's Chittering Witch. 4 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 black rat creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. Pay 2, sacrifice creature, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So again, a nice sacrifice outlet, very similar to Erebus, but it creates a little army for you when it comes into the battlefield. So it gives you the fodder for sacrificing. Amazing, and it's 4 CMC. Finally, Sifter of Skulls, 4 mana 4/3 with Devoid, so it's no colour. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 Eldrazi sign creature token onto the battlefield. It has sacrificed this creature, add a colour. So it can enable a nice bit of ramp, really accelerate you out, and you can sacrifice all those tokens to put a massive amount of into X for our commander. Really, really nice, and just works exceptionally with the deck. Which brings me on to my number 2 pick, and at number 2, we've got Rograk, whatever it's called. It's the Son of Rogar. And it costs 0 mana. It's a kobold. It's a 0/1. It's got First Strike, Menace, and Trample. Now, the reason I've included these sorts of cards, and I've included a fair amount of them with all of the other kobolds, is because with that second ability for our commander, it goes off CMC a number of creatures. So my thought is, well, okay, we can have a bunch of these really cheap creatures that we can bring back and then have a nice cool effect to add on to the end. So we can play all of these out, and then they're nice cheap sacrifice fodder. A lot of the cards that we talked about earlier draw us cards whenever you sacrifice things. So we're not going to lose out on card advantage. These are just essentially tokens that are in the deck, but they can be reanimated with our commander. So we've got Crookshank Kobolds, 0 for 0/1. That's it. And then here is one of the cards that can take advantage of all these 0-cost creatures. Din of the Fireherd. 8 mana for a sorcery, puts a 5/5 black and red elemental creature token into play. Target opponent sacrifice a creature for each black creature you control, so a lot of our tokens are black. And then sacrifice a land for each red creature you control. So all of the kobolds that we're talking about here are red, so we can just dump them onto the hand or bring them all back, cast Din of the Fireherd, make someone sacrifice all of their lands, someone else sacrifice all of the creatures. Absolutely fantastic. And it's a card that you don't see often, and neither is Kobolds of Kirkheap. 0 mana for a 0/1 kobold, and that artwork, dear God, what is going on? Absolutely phenomenal. To go along with this, one of the cards that you could bring back, so if you pump 5 mana into our commander, when it comes in with a second ability, we can bring back 4 kobolds and then Krav the Redeemed. So Krav the Redeemed is a 5 mana 3/3. Partners with Regina, doesn't matter, she's white, you can't play her in the deck, but you can pay a black and sacrifice X creatures. Target player draws X cards and gains X life and puts X 1/1 cans on Krav the Unredeemed. So say we've brought back those 4 kobolds, we've got Krav, all of them have entered. We use the black to sacrifice the 4 kobolds. They all go back into the graveyard, trigger all of our, things that trigger on deaths, and then we draw 4 cards, gain 4 life. It's just a cool little synergy that I thought we could put into the deck. Then Carnival of Souls, because these aren't tokens, and you can just play them for free, this allows us to generate mana. 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature comes into play, you lose 1 life and you get a black for your mana pool. So we cast a free creature and we get a black mana. Yes, we lose a life, but I think we can get it back in other ways. So that's another way that we can get a lot of benefit from these 0-cost creatures. And then we've got God Eternal Bontu. 5 mana for a 5/6 zombie god with menace. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. There we go. Comes back with all the kobolds. Sacrifice them all. Sacrifice all your lands. To hell with it. Let's go balls deep, shall we? We'll just absolutely annihilate our own balls deep and draw tons of cards, which is what the game's all about, really, isn't it? And that brings me on to my number 1 pick. And at number 1, I've got Archfiend's Vessel. This is very similar to all the 0-cost creatures that I was just talking about. So Archfiend's Vessel, for just 1 mana in X, we can bring this back with our commander. So it's a black for a 1/1 with lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, if it entered from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, exile it. If you do, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. So this is absolutely fantastic. We cast our commander, just 1 into X, bring this back, and we've got a 5/5 along with our 5/3. It's really, really cool. And this is just a nice bit little sacrifice fodder as well. You know, it doesn't cost 0, but a single black, put it on the field, sacrifice it, and then bring it back later for a massive flying demon. And then this is all about sort of 1-cost creatures that we can get some kind of benefit from and then bring back later to get even more benefit. Blood Pet is a black for a Thrull, so 1/1. You can sacrifice it to add a black to your mana pool. So a nice bit of acceleration, triggers all of the things that care about dying, and we can accelerate a big X spell out like our commander. Then we've got Cabal Therapist, so this works well with all the tokens and kobolds. 1 black for a horror with menace. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, choose an online card name, then target player reveals their hand and discards all cards with that name. So the first time you use it, more than likely you're not going to hit anything, unless you really know your opponent's deck. But then you've got full information, you can sacrifice something else next turn, and you just know what you're going to be picking out of the hand. And when you hit blind with this, it's such a good feeling. It's a fantastic moment in the game. Then Insolent Neonate, another sacrifice outlet here. Well, not outlet, but it sacrifices itself. 1 red for a 1/1 with menace. Discard a card, sacrifice it, draw a card. So absolutely fantastic. Fills up your graveyard with something you may want to reanimate with your commander by discarding a card. Draws a card, puts this into the graveyard so you can reanimate this and just keep churning through the deck. It's absolutely wonderful. Then a different direction you could take the deck down is Shadowborn Apostle. 1 black for a 1/1. Your deck may have any number of cards named Shadowborn Apostle in it. Pay a black, sacrifice 6 creatures named Shadowborn Apostle, search your library for a demon creature card and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. So our commander is a demon, and you could really go down this demon Shadowborn Apostle sort of deck, because if you just keep your commander in the command zone, all right, we pay black to sacrifice 6 creatures named Shadowborn Apostle. Then, if we put 6 mana into X, we can return all 6 of those Shadowborn Apostles and do it all over again. But what demons could we fish out? Well, Defiler of Souls is a really cool one that I love the artwork on. It looks so sort of ethereal and weird. 6 mana for a 5/5 with flying. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a mono-coloured creature. So it's a bit like a Shieldred, isn't it? You know, making people sacrifice. And say you only had your commander in this, you don't have to sacrifice something. Obviously, if you've got a mono-coloured creature, you have to sacrifice it. But we'll not look at the negatives, shall we? And then we've got Harvester of Souls, a 6 mana 5/5 demon with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you draw a card. So another great bit of card advantage can really help you churn through the deck. Very, very nice. And those are my top 5 cards for this demon. I think he's really quite cool. You know, it's a nice board wipe, you know, in those situations when you're behind. And if you want to get ahead, reanimate a bunch of stuff. It's really, really cool, and I like it very much. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do like, comment, subscribe, and tell me about your favourite pizza topping. That would be nice to hear about. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye. Oh no! Ah! Disaster.